help awaken the world and bring back the sacred is Adam Guzman-Poole, committed to doing this one loving act at a time. Welcome you all to Awaken and Ascend. I'm Jennifer Regular, your host and sacred leadership mentor for visionaries on the path of soul growth. So excited to have Adam here to join us today from Bali, Indonesia. He is someone who's spent the last couple of decades now in apprenticeship with indigenous elders, Amazonian shamans, and yogic and Buddhist teachers. Has even trained in existential therapy so that he can weave all of this with modern psychology and ancient wisdom to bring us lessons on love, which also happens to be the title of his book. Adam, thank you for bringing all of this and all of you. I am so grateful for the work that you're putting out into this world, and I cannot wait to hear what you discovered on your journey that might actually help us all live a little more fully and love more deeply.
Thank you so much. Such an honor and privilege to be here with you. Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. So I'm curious what lit your path. You've obviously experienced and done a lot. So how did you get into that kind of journey?
Yeah. Well, I think as many beautiful journeys start, they start with a challenge. And so when I was growing up in my teens, I had a bit of a rocky upbringing, some substance abuse. I was a little bit of a wild kid. And by grace, I encountered an indigenous medicine woman over on Algonquin territory in the Ottawa region of Canada. And she took me in and really, saw me. And she brought this energy of love. She brought this ancient wisdom, and that wisdom really lifted me up. And I think that's something that's really special that we can do with all the people in our lives. We can see them, and when we see people, we lift them up, right? So she was able to see past the challenges, past what society may deem as like negative, and see me at my soul, right? And then that brought it out. And also that, sort of got me on this 20-year apprenticeship with different healers, teachers in the world. So, yeah, that's
Wow.
how it began.
Do you remember what really stood out for you, what you kind of carried forward from meeting that medicine woman?
Hmm. What stood out for me? Yeah, and I think I touched on it, and I think, well, it's that connection to that sacred, right? And we call it love, right? We call it love, but it's that connection to that sacred is what really, I think, what we're all longing for in the
Mm-hmm.
world, right? So when we're looking for, whether it be substance, whether it be looking for achievements, when we're looking outside the world to meet a certain need, we're looking for something, but what is it, right? What is it we're searching for? And what that beautiful medicine woman showed me was that truth is within us, right? And that sacred essence of life is all over. It's within us. It's all around us. But we just have to turn our attention to it. And when we turn our attention to that love, to that life, to that beauty that's always here, it helps raise our consciousness, and it helps us rise above whatever challenges are there. And I think that's like something just really pertinent and poignant for our time right now, right? We live in such a challenging time where, we are in a lot of distress, right? And we're asking, like, what do we do? And if we can remember that, like, when we tune in and plug into the energy of the sacred, it helps us raise up and have like higher vision, have higher wisdom, and know the right response in any given circumstance.
Really lost our connection to source, the source
Mm-hmm.
of love, the source of our spiritual well-being, the source of love, and love at being the source. And I love
Mm-hmm.
the acronym that I came across, or that was given to me from one of my earlier mentors, that love is lots of vital energy. Lots of vital
Mm-hmm.
energy. And when we're not feeling that, when we're feeling heavy, when we're feeling low, when we're don't have the energy, when we're exhausted and burnt out, we're disconnected from that source. We're disconnected from love and connection. And
Mm-hmm.
there is such a sacredness to being in right relationship with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
with each other, with the world. And I know you touch on those topics in your book, Lessons on Love. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I see that you've also carried forth is, everything to do about learning about love. What is the lesson in love? What is it that you talk about in the book?
Yeah, so the lessons on love, I mean, when you look at, I break down lessons on love into like a framework called the five pathways to
Mm.
love,
Okay.
and because love has so many different flavors, right? And it starts with that first flavor of source, our connection to the sacred,
Mm.
right? When we are plugged into that, that gives us the energy. Like the Christians say that God is love, source is love, whatever you wanted. So then when you plug into that, you have that energy to move on. You have that enthusiasm that you're talking about. But very often, so then that's your connection. Then what's the next stage, right? The next stage and pathway to love is love with yourself, right? If you can't, we all know it's the famous airplane metaphor, right? You can't, in case of emergency, the oxygen mask goes
Mhm.
on. You gotta take care of yourself. You gotta nurture yourself. You gotta love yourself, so you can bring that love into the world. And so that's like the next pathway. And then after that, after you've like supported yourself, so you're better able to support your partner, your kids, your neighbors, and the world and so on, right? So it's just like these circles of love grow together. There's a beautiful story that I think kind of hits this idea home, and it's an ancient, you know, proverb. And there's this old man talking to this young man, and he's looking at this young man, and he's very distraught. He's very sad, and the young man says, "What's wrong?" And the old man shakes his head. He said, "Well, when I was young, I thought I could save the world, and I tried to change it, but I couldn't do that. So then I tried to change my country, and that I couldn't do. So then I tried to change my city, and that I couldn't do. Now, then I said, well, I'm going to change my family, and that I couldn't do. Now, after all these years, I'm discovering that if I would have first changed myself, then maybe, just maybe, I would have been able to change my family, then us, our city, country, and world, right?" And so that's really the path to love, really. It's like really, first, well, plug into source, connect to that love within yourself, bring that love to your family, your friends, bring it to your community, to your enemies, when we're all just part of the same earth. And that really will change the world, right? And I really believe that it's like, one of the greatest ways to change the world starts right at home. It was Mother Teresa said, you want to change the world, go home and love your family, right? And then we create those ripples.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of what I talk about in the book.
And it's transforming and inspiring generations because it's actually being used in one of the universities, right, in Florida?
Yes. Yeah, so
Yeah.
University of Southern Florida, they're using it in an ethics course to help students, one, like connect with this something bigger than themselves, whatever that is for them.
Yeah.
It's also helping them develop positive emotions, holistic health, and yeah, foster those generations. Yeah, foster like love and compassion and service for the world. So it's pretty cool. It's I appreciate like the format is just short stories, right? Because stories are kind of how we make meaning of this world. We can
Mhm.
talk about love all we want, but when we hear a story like that medicine woman seeing somebody, right?
Yeah.
Then we're going to start to see, oh, that's actually what happens when we love, right? That's what happens when we connect to source. So like stories, I believe, are like, a great Trojan horse, you could say, like to getting people to really understand something. And that's the format of the book.
Yeah. And this is true leadership, right? This is authentic
Mm.
leadership is you becoming love, you becoming the
Mhm.
source. of
Mm,
sharing that love and inspiring future generations and and the healing that we do to become whole, to let go of anything that's not of us, also becomes leadership, because now we become more of a role model. And not only that, we're healing our whole ancestral line. So it's across,
mm,
future, past generations, and it's reminding us of who we truly are and what we came here to do. That just emerges naturally because somebody created the conditions for that to arise. And we go back, and this is what I offer in my work too, is remembering what it actually means to be a leader. Because in the
mm,
etymology of leader, willedere, it means to guide and bring forth. And
mm,
that's what I'm
mm,
trying to restore. That's the sacredness of leadership. So I call it sacred leadership, which a lot of people don't quite understand. But if you go back to the roots of that, that's what it's meant to be. And this is what you're
mm,
doing, Adam, is what I'm hearing in your stories and what you're sharing in the book that you put out, and the impact that that's had on, especially the youth and future
mm,
generations, is that you're passing on what you're here to do, right? Your true
mm.
passion. And
Yeah.
again, I'm going to break up that word for everybody because when you do, it's pass I on. That I is your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. And then soul then becomes an acronym for sending out universal love. So
Mm,
we
mm,
keep coming back to love, right? That lots of
mm,
vital energy, sending that out. And you talked about self-love, really loving yourself. And I know that's a really difficult thing to do when you look at
mm,
all the self-growth and personal development. And there's so much on that topic, right? Of how to love yourself more, about self-love and self-compassion. And I think one of the things that limits that is that we put conditions on,
mm,
that false belief that we seem to be ingrained with, that something's not good enough, that,
mm, mm,
and we can only love ourselves under certain conditions, right? Or
mm,
if I have
mm,
this, or I do this, or I have that person's approval, or I can please this person, or accomplish this, then, I'm worthy of
mm,
love. So that
mm,
worthiness, that love is all intertwined, and it gets tangled up because we forget what true love is, what the true source of
mm,
love is. And you mentioned
mm.
all these different pathways to it. And of course, there's many
Yeah.
other pathways into it too that other people talk about. But I think just getting back to, what does it take, Adam, to truly love ourselves?
Yeah. And so I'm gonna tell another story, and
Great. I love them.
this is the and this is actually it's in my book. It's the opening for self-love, and it's a true story that takes place um, in Asia before it was around Thailand, and there was a war happening with and an invading army was entering this village, and the villagers had this huge golden statue of Buddha. And they didn't want the raiders to take the Buddha and just destroy it. So they went and they started covering it up with mud and covering up the statue with mud so no one could notice that it was actually made of pure gold. So when the raiders came in, they took the village over, but they saw the statue was just a Buddha statue and they just left it. And they kept it there and maybe moved it to the side of it. But it was 5 tons golden Buddha statue. It was huge, right? And so this happened for about 200 years. It was hidden until they actually tried to move it. Years later, everyone had forgotten that the statue was made out of gold. And when they tried to move it, it was so big, the crane couldn't happen, and it fell, and there was a crack in it. And one of the monks went up and he opened it and saw in the crack, and there was just shimmering with gold and like this big bright light. So all the monks started coming together and breaking it apart, and then they found this amazing golden Buddha statue. And and that's and like to this day it's the largest statue, like gold statue in the world, 5 tons, I believe it is. Now, this statue is a metaphor for us,
Mhm.
right? We are this golden, beautiful, radiant soul. That's who we are,
Mhm.
right? But because of the conditions of life, fears, all these things that are put upon us, we've covered ourselves with mud. we've forgotten who we truly are. But at our core, that is who we are. That is our source. That's our soul nature. So helping us remember, that's the thing, is like one of the first things is to remember that we are that. That's who we are. You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, the very first thing that Krishna, the divine being, tells to Arjuna when he's about to fight a battle and he's so afraid to fight this battle and he doesn't know what to do, and he says, "Why are you afraid? You are the soul. You know, fire cannot burn you. Water cannot drown you. Wind cannot blow you away. You are untouchable. You are the indestructible soul. That is who you are. Remember who you are." So the first thing is to remember our soul nature, right? And, you know, it really does come back to what I said in the beginning, is like our connection to source is like, that is the thing that, you know, that helps us remember. Because it's sometimes hard when, you know, we have this, like when we're operating from a limited ego, right? So we're operating from this limited ego, trying to love this untouchable self. But when we remember, actually, I'm the golden core. That's who I am at my nature. There's nothing that even like, it's like why would I get mad at mud? You know what I mean? Like that's what we're doing when we're getting mad at like maybe I fell short, maybe I didn't, you know, do it good enough, and you know, and these are so common beliefs that we're all struggling with, and I've struggled with it, and I still like those beliefs come up, but those aren't who I am, and I have to remember that every time they do it. It's just a piece of mud, right? You know, like we can acknowledge our shadow, but don't get mad at your shadow. It's just there, right? So I think that's the first place to start. And then there's so many little things of like, what does that look like? But I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But I think, you know, we'll start right there.
I think that's such a profound image to remember it in that way, you know, of this golden Buddha and all of this mud, and then what's underneath all of that. And you said a word that I want to say again, and that's indestructible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I know I have, and other people have shared with me, and I see it all the time with people feeling and being beaten down.
Mm-hmm.
No
Mm-hmm.
one can destroy you. No one can
Mm-hmm.
take away your power. And
Yeah.
none of that, those beliefs, those thoughts, other people's perceptions define you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not of you. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that you're reminding us to remember who we are,
Yeah.
you know, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a shamanic practitioner, my teacher taught us about dismembering and remembering,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we can dismember and fall apart and be pulled in lots of different directions and places. And then we remember. We put
Mm-hmm.
our, you know, like Humpty Dumpty back together again, you know, and we remember who we truly are. We remember our source. We see that golden light and we spotlight it like the Algonquin medicine women did for you, right? You spotlight that. And then that grew, that became the focal point, your truth. And truth is our
Mm-hmm.
protection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, bring us back to
Yeah.
love. And we talked about loving acts as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, um, well, I believe that love is a verb, right? Like it's an action, and I think it's like I believe it was Stephen Covey, the leadership expert, who said that, you know, love is a verb, and the fruit of love is the feeling. You know, it's the fruit is the feeling that we get it from it. But we actually get love through action. We can get it through that. You know, it's like bringing love into this world. So loving acts, I mean, they manifest in so many different ways. And if we like go back to loving ourselves, like, you know, there are very simple ways that we can just like, how would you take care of something you cherished, right?
Mm.
You would, you know, you would nurture it. You would make sure that it didn't rust or whatever. It's like you would like, you know, you say you loved your car, you'd give it enough fuel. You'd give it, you know, like you just like, so like you had to sleep well, you got to eat well, you got to nurture. You know, your just body is a temple, right? So take care of it like a temple. Don't go and spray paint it like what a philosopher Brian Johnson used to say. Don't go and spray paint your body, you know, the temple. You know, take care of it, right?
Mm.
And so. So that's like a loving act. And then also like, feeling uncomfortable feelings that are moving through you. That's also an act of love. Being
Hmm.
present, bearing witness, right, is also an act of love, right? It was Thich Nhat Hanh who said that one of the greatest ways to say I love you is your presence.
Ah,
And so we talked about yourself, so we'll start with ourselves, right?
mm,
So how often do we forget to take care of, like, maybe there's a pain that we're feeling. Someone said something that upset us and the pain body got activated. Often, like, well, maybe we'll run to work, maybe we'll run to food, maybe we'll run to whatever coping mechanism it is that we tend to look for, right? And that's we're in moments like that, we're all actually abandoning ourselves. We're kind of like forgetting about ourselves. But a loving act is to actually just be present and bear witness for what's there right now.
yeah.
So just like, and what does that look like? It's like on a somatic experience, it's just really feeling what is here. Maybe there's some tension in your chest. Maybe there's some clenching in your throat. And it's just so you can just be with that, relax and release into it. Just relax and release into whatever you're feeling. And that is an act of love. And it actually allows this energy to clear, because it's just, it's like, if you're bearing witness to someone that's having a hard time, and just imagine you're doing it to a friend, right? And you're there with them, that isn't there anymore because we've processed it, right?
Mm,
We've moved through
mhm.
it. So um, this is one act of love. Gosh, we could go on. Like, I mean, it's going service to your community, and like, I mean,
Well, I
yeah, it would
think
be a
that
very
was
long
just,
podcast, but yeah.
yeah, well, I think that was just a perfect example of unconditional love, right? Because when you
Hmm.
can sit and bear witness and be with whatever it is that's there, that's alive for you in that moment, and being fully present, seeing it, feeling it,
Hmm.
that doing that without shame, without judgment, that's unconditional love,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And
And you can carry that forward as a loving act for yourself and others as well.
100%. And I think just something I want to add is like that when we can also connect to that soul nature that I was talking about, it helps us bear
Mhm.
witness even more.
Hmm.
It helps us bear witness for other people and also bear witness for it within us, right? Because we're getting resourced from something bigger than us, right? Bigger
Yes.
than this limited ego that has likes, dislikes, gets put off, and then, that part is kind of hard to, it's kind of like hard to be unconditionally loving. But when we can connect to that soul lit nature, it can hold everything. It's indestructible, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Love that. And, I'm really interested too for anyone tuning in right now, if they want to share what's one loving act that you can do today? What's one loving act that you've received that you can be in gratitude for?
Mm.
To rekindle that love, that loving spirit, and that action. And maybe there's something that's inspired that you'd like to do. We talk about kindness day, right? What's one loving act you can do for yourself and for others, your community, your family, whoever it may be? What would be a loving act? And I'd love to see that in the comments, because then that would just generate more, more
Mm.
love and more
Let's do it.
opportunities and options for sharing more love and spreading that love. And wow. And I know there's a lot of this that you do in your work, that you bring in the work. Everything that you do is a loving act through your work, Adam. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that and how people can connect with you and your work and feel
Yeah,
love.
so yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so but just do what Jennifer did. Let's bring the love, one loving act at a time will
Mm,
change the world.
mhm,
But yeah, to work with me, I mean, I work as a spiritual therapist, a relationship counselor, and coach. And yeah, I think the best way, if anything resonated with you, you want to work in some way, you can, or you want to read the book, get the book. It's awesome. um, and yeah, so the best place is lessonsonlove.org/gift. So
mm,
that's lessonsonlove.org /gift. And that's, yeah, you actually get like a bunch of stories from the book, how to bring more love into our lives,
Oh,
how to
perfect.
bring more love into our relationships with other people, and everything we talked about and more. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. And you're gifting
Yeah.
that. So we'll definitely put a
Yes,
link
yeah.
to that below, everyone. And we'll put a lot more about Adam in the video description as well. If you want to find out a little bit more about what he's about and about his family and his experiences. And of course, the website link will be there in the video description below as well. I'm so grateful that all of you have been able to join us today on Awaken and Ascend. And I'm so grateful for you, Adam, for sharing all that you did, all your wisdom and your stories and your love. And I wonder if there's anything else that's coming through that you'd like to share and express.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I just want to appreciate you so much, Jennifer. And I will. The last thing I would say is that, there's a lot going on in the world today,
Mm,
right? There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of, um, you know, yeah, there's a lot. We'll just leave it at that. And I just think that, to remember that thing that we spoke about, that we are indestructible. We are the
mm,
soul.
mm,
And, we don't need to worry about the whole world. We just need to worry about our corner. And
mm.
if we really just do our part in where we are, that ripples into this whole world. So just remember to do our part and, take that radical responsibility. Let's be leaders and let's, change this world one loving act at a time.
Guide and bring forth through love.
Let's do
Yay!
it. Rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Thank you so much, Adam. It's been such a pleasure having you
Mm.
here. So
Joy.
much
Thank
love to
you.
you, all of you that have been joining us today on Awaken and Ascend. We'd love to hear about your loving acts, so make sure you do that. And if you've read or will be reading Adam's book, then share what kind of those lessons or pathways really spoke to you. What were your takeaways? Let's hear that in the comments as well. And keep the conversation alive. Keep coming back, resourcing and returning to source. I think that was so beautiful that you mentioned that, to keep filling ourselves up that way. And as Pema Children said, sometimes when everything seems like it's falling apart, it's actually just falling into place. And
Mm.
trust that there's a higher power at work. Don't trust, the powers that seem to be in power. Trust the higher power and that everything is falling into place. Trust your own path, your own self, especially. Love yourself.
Mm.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time on Awaken and Ascend.